So we thank you for coming. The program this morning, of course, has to do with the race for Springfield mayor. And I will turn the program to the illustrious Jim Leach, news director of WMAY.
Bob, thank you, and good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. Just to let you know, as we've already notified our candidates, this is not a debate per se. We're not putting time limits on them. It's a conversation. We have asked our candidates to be thorough yet concise, in other words, to cut to the chase, so that we can cover as much material as we can during the 1 hour we have, because Bob has a hard and fast 9 a.m. time limit on this. First, to introduce our candidates, both are well known to you all. Jim Langfelder grew up and attended school here in Springfield, became a banker, and then entered public life. He served 3 terms as Springfield City Treasurer and was elected to his first term as mayor in 2015. He and his wife, Billy, are the parents of 3 children. His challenger, Frank Edwards, also has a long career in public service as a Springfield firefighter, working his way up to fire chief. He was elected Ward 1 alderman in 2003, the same year Mayor Langfelder became treasurer, and also served 3 terms in that role, except for the period in 2011 when he stepped into the role of mayor following the death of Tim Davlin. He and his wife, Cinda, have 1 child. Candidates, thank you both for your service, and thank you for being here today. Our first question is one you probably heard repeatedly, especially from friends and family, and since you both have experience with what can be a demanding and sometimes thankless job, why do you wish to keep or to resume doing it? And we'll put that first to Mayor Jim Langfelder.
Well, thank you very much, Jim Leach. Good morning to everybody, and thank you to the Citizens Club, WMAY, and WSCC for giving us and the Springfield voters the opportunity to connect on Springfield's future. I'm Jim Langfelder, as Jim had mentioned, lifelong resident of Springfield, dedicated father of 3 adult children, all living in Springfield. My wife puts up with me for 29 years, which I appreciate. I've served in the private sector as a banker for 14 years, city treasurer for 12 years, and had the honor of serving as your mayor since 2015. Having followed city government since 1979, I have seen what has worked well and what hasn't. I decided to run for mayor in 2015 because Springfield was at a crossroads. We had a structural financial deficit, and we could do better. CWLP was facing a potential bond default. Oak Ridge Cemetery was operating in the red. Rising in police, fire, and pension fund payments. Under my leadership, the City Council made tough, nonpartisan decisions, and we overcame these challenges, saving millions of dollars by eliminating early retirement spikes, renegotiating the coal contract, and at a time when government was being downgraded because of no state budget, and proactive measures were rewarded by going from a negative to a stable outlook for CWLP. We cut expenses and reduced headcounts while providing additional services. We achieved Class 1 fire rating for our fire department. We completed the long overdue 11th Street and Stanford Avenue extensions while doing over $160 million in sewer, street, sidewalk improvements, and throughout Springfield, creating over 1,200 jobs and impacting 2,000 other jobs. We funded Oak Ridge Cemetery with Hotel Motel, Lincoln Library with telecom, and police and fire pension funds with sales tax revenues. Now Oak Ridge Cemetery is operating in the black. Lincoln Library expanded its outreach services, and we are in a better position to fulfill our pension obligations. We have given people a voice in our city government through our ward plan meetings and opened the doors of opportunity. Under my leadership as mayor, Springfield now has a more stable foundation to empower us to do better. As we have done since 2015, we will continue the momentum by building on our community strengths and work together so all Springfield will be improved and our city thrives together. We will use CWLP as an economic driver for our most needed areas and continue to expand our Springfield community policing efforts so everybody lives in a safe neighborhood. I appreciate everyone's attention to this election and their vote April 2nd.
Frank Edwards, why do you want back into the mayor's office?
Well, first of all, let me thank you for being here and thank everybody else for being here. It's very humbling to be here, to ask for your votes. I've been in Springfield most of my life, except for college, military service. It's my hometown. As many of you have read, and I was somewhat shocked to see, I'm not that cuddly or fuzzy guy that I thought I was. But what I am is a trained, rated airline transport pilot. I'm a journeyman fireman. And we're trained to react to problems and fix them, or something is going to go drastically wrong. I'm watching my hometown, and there's a problem. We have loss of jobs. We have loss of people. Our property values are going down. Crime's on the rise. Quite frankly, we're headed in the wrong direction. I could no longer stand by and watch. I know what it takes and what has to be done in the mayor's office. I was in the mayor's office before when times were pretty tough. And with no excuses, we moved the city forward. That's why I'm standing up again with the experience and the knowledge that I know what it takes as your mayor to move our city forward. Thank you.
Candidates, thank you both. A couple of differing assessments of where we stand right now, but I think both of you would agree we do still have challenges here that need to be confronted in Springfield. So let me just ask, what would be your top priority as mayor? What's the most pressing issue we need to address? I'd like to start with Frank Edwards.
Economic development, jobs, and more jobs. Just like I mentioned before, we have loss of people. We've lost over 600 jobs. Our young people are leaving because they can't find work. Our property values are going down because we have more sellers than buyers. I've been told if your home is close to $400,000, you're trying to sell it, good luck. Well, that isn't the way it used to be. It used to be great place to live, great place to do business, and good government. And we're going in absolutely the wrong direction. Without economic development, we're seeing what's wrong with our community. If people can't get jobs, they leave. When they leave, the rest of us are still here. There's a fixed cost that we have to help pay for.
So what would you do differently?
So your taxes, well, private industry and government have partnered up with the Lincoln Land Economic Development Corporation. I support that totally. And there's two parts to that, Jim. You have the city's part and you have economic development part. The city's part is we have to get crime under control. We have to get our utilities under control. If you can think for just a second, we were in a meeting the other day and a guy that's a business guy told me, he said, we have 1 million square feet under roof. If I move my business to Jacksonville, I would save $3 million in utility costs. Now, if you have stockholders and investors that you're trying to pay, and we have one of the highest utility rates for industrial and commercial property, they're going to choose somewhere else to go.
We're going to come back to City Water, Light, and Power. It's an important issue, but I want to go to Mayor Jim Langfelder now to get, first of all, your assessment. What do you see as the most pressing need going forward and how to address it?
Well, I encourage everybody to drive throughout Springfield, and we've seen development happening all over parts of our community. But we are in a retail change. We're losing the big box stores, and really it plays to Springfield's advantage. We're built on small businesses. We have family-owned businesses, like the Buns, the Brants, Levi's, that help grow our community throughout our times, decades. But if you go down Monroe to LRS, $20 million expansion. You go out west, it's taking care of itself. You go to the Enos Park area, we partnered with the Springfield Art Association to the Visual Arts Center. And then we are going to move the YMCA to the medical area that helps border downtown and also Enos Park. It's going to really drive development in that area. But you go out east, and AMC Theaters did their luxury theater out on the east side of Springfield. Not the west side, but the east side, because they see the promise of the east side. And that's where we need to concentrate our private sector investments, leveraging our government dollars to lift up that area. There's a report in Government Magazine recently that talked about the segregation, the disparities between people. And I look at our city as a family. It's just like your family. If one person's sick, we're all sick. And that's how I look at our community. If one area of town's not doing well, we need to focus our efforts so we lift up all areas of town. And we're doing that with the rail project. The rail project was, we moved the Salvation Army, which was a crucial piece. It helps Horace Mann grow from the, expand, one of our largest employers, but it put back on the tax rolls Gold's Gym, which is a vacant property. Salvation Army there. They're doing a community center. Now the Robert Morris College is back there, YMCA. But what we need to do is we're extending the east side TIF. And with regards to the rail corridor, there'll be development on both sides now that that corridor is cleared, and have future developments on both sides of 11th Street and 9th Street. But the other part of it is with the TIF is that Comer-Cox area that have Boys and Girls Club and also Salvation Army with their community center, and that entire area, not only with the TIF, but the opportunity zone that borders it, will help leverage private dollars to help that area grow. But our most precious asset in our community is our people, especially our young people.
So Mayor, is it your contention that, in effect, we've already hit the bottom on this in terms of job loss, population loss?
Oh, yeah.
We're on the upswing now?
Yeah, well, I'll leave the analytics with the numbers to the individuals, because I used to do CRA, Community Reinvestment. When they talk about Springfield MSA, that stands for Metropolitan Statistical Area. It's Sangamon County and Menard County. So what cities are seeing across the country are people are moving into the urban areas, and that's what we're seeing. So the 2010 data is, it's old data. We're going to have the 2020 census coming up, and you'll see the real population numbers with regards to the city of Springfield in itself. But we do have challenges, and, we're always here to improve, and that's what I look at. I'm big on self-critique. That's why I allow people to speak at city council meetings. They can critique me, they can call me names if they like, but really we have to stay focused on the bottom line, and the bottom line is how do we improve the lives of each and every citizen in the city of Springfield.
Frank Edwards, you've received a couple of endorsements from well-known local leaders, Karen Hacera, Neil Williamson. In those statements, they've referenced the crime rate in Springfield. One called it the second most dangerous city in Illinois. Another referred to it with a ranking of 4th place. You yourself have mentioned the crime rate in Springfield. Do you perceive Springfield to be that dangerous, and what would you do to change that?
Well, I was a little bit shocked when I saw the articles. I think your radio station had done a article on it that originally caught my attention, and then the Decatur Herald had done an article on it, and then the USA Today paper had put forth an article. So I started looking, and there's a company out there, and it's a data mining company. And what that means is if we're a headhunter or we're a investor, we're a bank, we're wanting to move into a certain location. It's called Neighborhood Scout. You can go on there and look yourself if you want. But they sell data to companies that are moving into different localities. So I happened to stumble on it because of the different articles. They have us at a crime index of 4. Now, that doesn't mean anything to you because I didn't tell you the scale. But the scale is 100's the safest, and we're a 4. So the more I looked at that, the more I said, well, I didn't believe that it was like this. But then when you start looking at articles and you start looking at the data and you realize that somebody in Springfield is shot at every 5 days, that's incredible to me. Not shot, shot at. When somebody is, and when 2 people are assaulted every day in the city of Springfield, 365 days of the year, something's wrong.
So how do you change it?
I took that data, let me finish this, Jim. I took that data, and it's kind of the tale of 2 cities. We constantly want to blame our problems on the state. So I looked 60 miles up the road to see what Bloomington Normal's doing. They had a crime index of 28. So if we're going to build a company, are we going to go somewhere where if we, us, wanted to build a company, would we take our employees into some place that's got a crime index of 4? Or would we take it someplace where we think it's safer? Would we move our company into some place that's got higher utilities, or would we move it into some place that's got lower utilities? Bloomington Normal up the road has gained 4,000 people in employment at the same time we've lost 3,000 people. It's just the tale of two cities. So crime is a problem. The statistics show it. And how I would solve it, Jim, is I'm kind of a data-driven guy. I would look at the data, study the data, and put a task force or a team into where the problem is and solve it where that crime area is. Because crime's like cancer. If it doesn't get checked, it grows.
Do we have sufficient headcount in the police department, enough officers on the streets?
I believe we do. I think it's the policies and the leadership, Jim.
Mayor, your perception, first of all, of crime in Springfield, is it as bad as the picture that's being painted?
Well, I think it's up to each individual. If you're affected by a crime, then you view it that way. And so with regards to the statistics, I encourage everybody to talk to Chief Winslow or the staff, but two facts, important facts. Since 2010, overall crime is down nearly 30%. And then that's the index crime. That's the most severe crime. But crimes against people is down over 30% since 2010. But again, I'll leave that up to the pundits and the ones that want to analyze the data. But really, I'm excited about the EDC, because what the Economic Development Corporation, what they will do is help market Springfield. And since I've been mayor, we haven't done an efficient job in telling our story. And that's what we need to do when we're out visiting. And each one in the audience and watching, they're all our spokespeople for the city of Springfield. So when you're out traveling, you should always, have passion for your city like I do and promote Springfield with regards to tourism or economic development, because business is all about personal relationship. If they trust you, they will relocate or build here. But we went 2.5 years without a state budget. No other community, no other capital city could have withstood that storm better than Springfield. And thank God when we got into office, we corrected the financial structure of CWLP, because they owed us over $15 million. And one more debacle. We already had the power marketing debacle. We had the wind contract, expensive wind contracts that the citizens paid, not CWLP. But one more misstep, and CWLP would have went under. But we saved it, and when times where individuals were getting downgraded, CWLP got an upgrade. But with regards to crime, it goes back to, with regards to all our areas of the community, economic development, and how do we grow together, and that's that public-private partnership. And I have my full faith and confidence in Chief Winslow. He's done a fantastic job. He understands community outreach. He's improved diversity within the police force and his command staff, and especially the men and women of our police department has done a phenomenal job. I call it Springfield policing. You can argue about community policing. It's Springfield policing. How do we customize our Springfield Police Department? Because they are the first point of contact for a lot of individuals, especially our homeless. And that's why we did the homeless outreach team. We funded it this year because now they can connect homeless individuals to get the support services they need. And when people call for help, they call our police officers because they trust them, and we have our full faith and confidence. We'll do everything in our power to give them the technology they need and the support that they need so they can respond appropriately and effectively for our citizenry.
One follow-up on the issue of crime, though. As you said, if it's affecting you, it's a serious issue right now. There was an impassioned plea before the City Council this week on this subject. Economic development takes time, but there are people who are in crisis right now. Are there any changes that you think need to be made in the short term, in the immediate, to try to address what some people are dealing with on a daily basis here?
Yeah, it was a tragic story that she had provided to us. She lost a son and I think another relative to gun violence. And what that showed me is two things. We gave her a voice. Nobody knew her story, but she was comfortable enough to come to the city of Springfield City Council and profess her story. It's a plea for help. Poplar Place is one area. It's a planned unit development, and the developer is supposed to take care of the roads there. And we pulled them in, and they showed me a fancy book, had all the nice projects that they have throughout the country. I said, well, this is nice, but this is what I want Poplar Place to look at. How many of you have been through Poplar Place recently? I encourage everybody to drive through Poplar Place. It's right down from Channel 20. Drive through. They're the most deplorable roads that the developer is supposed to take care of. Well, they weren't getting it. I said, listen, we just improved the roads. That could be Springfield's next Ferguson. We could be Ferguson because of the roads. And why? The residents living there, they're seeing the city of Springfield improve all the roads around that development. Oh, and they're thinking, oh, our roads are going to be improved. No, not because it's the developer's responsibility. we didn't go in there. They didn't understand that. And so that could be a crisis situation, but we averted it because we kind of forced the developer to do what's right, and they did a model home so people can visually see what their community can look like with changing a duplex to a house. And then they
Mayor,
see
I'm
that
sorry to
change.
interrupt, but I want to make sure we can keep the conversation
Sure.
going here, and I want to bring Frank Edwards back into this because he's talking about economic development. You're talking about studies. These are long-term approaches, but you also talked about policy in terms of how police are conducting themselves. What would you change immediately, day one as mayor, to make policing more effective and to make it a better response to crime in this community?
If you check the data, you find out where the crime is, Jim. And then that's where you put a team together. You take a lieutenant with the team, put it in that area, work with the residents, build up a relationship with the residents, and go after the crime in that area. You mentioned just a minute ago, those people are in crisis today. They're not worried about roads at Popular Street. They're worried about, can I survive through the day? We need to get that team in there today, not tomorrow, today, to help these people that are in crisis. So they know that we're with them, we're standing with them, we start to build a relationship with them, and we can start informing them what we're doing, makes them more comfortable, and then they'll help us with the information. But we can't wait for economic development. The mayor talks about economic development. That's great. We've had 4 years to do economic development. We've had none. We've had job loss. We've had people leaving town. There's two parts to that I just mentioned. One part's the economic part, development part, where the Economic Development Corporation is formed. It has to have something to sell. The city, on our part, has to get crime under control, has to get our utility rates down, has to get infrastructure moving, so that economic development has something to sell. There's two parts to this, and we're not doing our part.
Mayor, I'd like you to briefly respond to the contention that for 4 years we've had no economic development.
Well, that's not the case. Like I said, $20 million expansion with LRS, $50 million development when the state wasn't having budget with St. John's HSHS. The Memorial Medical Center, they did a redevelopment before we got in, but a lot of projects were put on hold because of the state budget. The medical community was owed $250 million, and $100 million I know of were put on hold. But now we're rebounding with regards to the Y project. It's going to be a $30 million project in that area. But real quick, $20 million in Poplar Place to redo that whole development, transform it to a housing development that everybody would like to live in. And the other thing is ShotSpotter. We put it in the budget. We're partnered with St. John's Hospital as well as Memorial. They're helping fund that. And the importance of that is to identify accurately within seconds or minutes where shots are being fired in our most crime-ridden areas. And so that will allow police to respond appropriately. But our police department, they're in all our neighborhoods each and every day. They are combating the crime to the best of their ability, partnering with our citizenry. So that is happening. What city government needs to do is reinforce the trust level, and there's a high trust level with the City of Springfield Police Department and the City of Springfield, and all of us working together to address crime, economic development, and all the other challenges we face together.
We've covered some serious ground already, and we have some more serious issues to talk about. I want to pause for just a moment, though, to note that in the endorsements that Frank Edwards has received, and you alluded to this as well, the people endorsing you talk at length about what a likable and warm and friendly guy Jim Langfelder is.
Thank you very much.
And that and that you are not warm, fuzzy, or cuddly. But the mayor isn't.
Yeah, I was shocked at that myself, Jim, because I thought it was.
But the mayor is an ambassador for the community. So this is kind of a jump ball. Anybody can jump in on this. But how important is likability in a mayor? Is not being cuddly an asset or a liability?
Well, I think there's two parts to that, Jim. I think some of that was done in tongue-in-cheek, maybe not. But I'm more of a guy that let's get stuff done. Here's the facts. Let's work through this. Let's get it done. And anybody that knows me knows I'm approachable. I have an open door policy. You and I have known each other a long time. I'm a family guy. Actually, I'd rather be with my family than where I am. But I enjoy being with people. I enjoy getting their ideas. It's fun to hash back and forth. And I think because I don't smile a lot, people get that thing that, well, he doesn't smile. He's serious all the time. And if you've been around me, you know that that's not true. And Jim, you've been around me when I've been working out at Muni Opera.
Mayor, likability, how big an issue is it?
It's huge. That's why people asked me to run for governor, and they said, "Too bad you're not the president, because we could use more warm and fuzzy at the at the United States Congress, and as well as the state government, because they're inefficient when they don't get along, when they can't accept people's ideology. I can't even say the word this morning. I'm not a morning person, by the way. But with regards to that, you have to keep your focus on what Lincoln said. Government of the people, by the people, for the people. It's all about serving the public. And once people get elected, they seem to lose sight of that. And they're too far right, too far left. I'm more of a middle, moderate person. And that's how you get things done. So when the state didn't have a budget, we did get things done. We had an IDOT agreement that really put a timeline on moving the trains from 3rd Street to 10th Street to 2025. And that's a $70 million project that will come with the capital budget. We're going to ask for the full amount in partnership with our Chairman Van Meter and our representatives from the state and federal level. But the other things we've done is the downtown TIF. Only one community got a downtown extension to the downtown TIF, and that's the city of Springfield. We proved our case. When I went to the legislatures, I said, well, Mayor, it probably won't be done, but we'll try. And I said, where would we be as leaders if we thought that way? We got it done. And what's that mean? That means the Bicentennial Plaza got built. That meant the underground storage in the Jackson Street corridor got completed to relieve the water retention in that area. And it meant that the YMCA will be moved. It's a $30 million project. That's a huge lift. We opened up Lincoln Herndon Law Office that was closed for 4 years. That's Republican, Democrats, the governor, and myself working together as a Democrat. And then we freed up the corridor. I brought together Horace Mann, the county, SMTD, all these governing entities to move the Salvation Army, and that freed up the corridor. It meant a safer Capitol Avenue. We moved the buses over to the new transfer station. All of that is how Warm and Fuzzy gets things done, because we work together and we stay focused on the challenges we have as a community.
Can I address?
Please.
Let me tell you a little story, and I'll make it, it's a long story, I'll make it short for time. You all remember when I went into the mayor's office. The staff that was in there, they really didn't want me there because as alderman, I'd kept their feet to the fire. They weren't real happy to see me there. When I walked in the office, Jim Donlin was the first guy back. He's somewhere here in the audience. And he said, do you know how bad it is, the city? I said, well, I got an idea. I said, I think we're probably $6 million in debt. He said, no. He said it's closer to probably $10 million in debt. We have $2,000 in the checking account, and we've almost missed payroll twice. Well, that was pretty startling. And I'm getting ready to go into a room of people that I had not picked as a team to straighten the city out. And I walked in there, sat down. I said, from here on, I'll take the blame for everything that happens. But our city is in financial straits, and we need to straighten it out. And remember, this wasn't a team I picked. And that old adage, Republicans and Democrats can't work together, I don't think that's true at all. I think it comes down to leadership. I think if you have a strong leader and you can put a vision there for everybody to understand, I don't care if they're Democrats, Independents, Republicans, if you can lay that out for them, they'll help you. So to make this story a little shorter, in 6 months, we all worked together. We took the debt down almost $10 million in the city, and I could spend the rest of the afternoon explaining how we did it. We began to get the fund balance built up. We actually handed the government off to Mayor Houston in better shape than we found it, and Mayor Houston did a fantastic job in his term of keeping costs in check. Those people, when I walked in there, weren't glad to see me, but we do lunch probably 3 times a year ever since then, and that happened about 8 years ago. So you can be warm and fuzzy, I get that. People are looking for leadership, they're looking for encouragement, they're looking for the vision. And I think just because I don't smile is not something to hold against me. I think the results are in the pie. So I just wanted to follow up with that, Jim.
Let's take the issue of leadership now and turn it to one of the most important parts of Springfield city government, and that's city water, light, and power. One way or the other, changes will be coming to the utility in the years ahead. And so I'd like you each to just give a quick overview of your plan to preserve and protect this important city asset and position it for the future. And in particular, what is our future as a generator of electricity produced from coal? I want to start with Frank Edwards.
Again, okay. We have some issues at CWLP. If you look at statistics and data, it's out there that all coal-fired plants will be shut down by 2040. That's pretty startling, considering that's how we get our power and that's how we get our generation. I heard Jim, the mayor, earlier say that CWLP is on good financial footing. Well, the data doesn't show that. In fiscal year 2012, it showed that we sold 1.73 megawatts of power, 1 million megawatts of power. Today, that number's down to 164, I believe. So our sales are going downhill. Even in the report that they handed out and they presented to the city council, they said the revenues are decreasing. We have to put CWLP on a sound financial footing before we can do anything else. And if that means taking a couple generators offline, that's what we'll have to do. If it means converting some of those boilers to propane over coal, then we're going to have to take a serious look at doing that. We need to do what we need to do. Lake 2, it's time we close that fantasy down and move on. We've spent a lot of money. I was 16 years old when we started that project. Today I'm 68, and we still haven't finalized all the property for Lake 2. We've spent millions of dollars on Lake 2. Nobody'd like to see it more than me, but if you look at our water revenues, they're going backwards. They're going downhill. We can't afford it. So we need to make, and I understand there's a study out there on CWLP that kind of gives us a guideline what we should be doing. That study should be released now so that we can see it, not after the election, so we can have a serious discussion about CWLP. I don't think it should be privatized. I don't think it should be co-opted. It's our utility, and we need to straighten it out. And we can. You know, there's people out there that this is their livelihood. It's what generates power for us. We can do this, and we will do it.
I want to bring the mayor in now on this. Mayor, your plan for CWLP.
Well, this is the value of following city government as long as I have, since 1979. I had the luxury of my father being streets commissioner and then mayor under this form of government, which was crucial. Because when he was mayor, and this goes to the pricing situation, CWLP sold directly to each and every person, each and every business. We received 100% of the profits. Well, under the Mayor Hacer's administration, that's when we had the power marketing debacle. It was over $60 million cost to the CWLP. So now we sell into the market, we have to buy it back. So we're only getting 90 plus cents on the dollar. We're not getting that full 100%. That's why the prices go up. And with regards to that, then we had the cost of wind contracts that the individuals had to pay for it. One CWLP, and it drove me crazy because CWLP said, well, it didn't cost CWLP nothing. Well, no, it cost each and every resident $100 million, which is ridiculous. And so now the wind contracts are gone, so how do we go in the future? Well, Brian McFadden came into my office and he talked about Emberclear and talked about surprises. It was a well-kept secret because they knew that CWLP was the gem of the city. And they didn't know what the competitor of having a natural gas power plant in our backyard in Pawnee would mean to the city of Springfield. So he came in and said, well, Mayor, is it H no now or H no later? Now I'm thinking in the back of my mind, H no. But I said, well, I'll keep an open mind and I'll listen to you. So I did, and we worked with Everclear, and we worked out an agreement because natural gas could be a proper balance with CWLP. How do we leverage that? But most importantly, how do we protect our most precious asset of CWLP and return it back to its mission of providing affordable electricity to our residents? And the key component is supplying water to Everclear, because electricity is not the future, it's water. The communities that have a safe and reliable source of water are going to be the ones that grow in the future. And so unfortunately, the city council, when Alderman Edwards was serving, went to they went back to the study of a gravel pit, which is a boondoggle. And they should never have done it. I read the reports. It was ruled out 40 years ago or whatever it was, and they went through that whole process, stalled, and it went that same direction. It proved invalid. So when we met with the Army Corps of Engineers, one of the first things they said to us, are you really serious this time about Hunter Lake? I said, yes. I said, unfortunately, with change of administrations, they changed their priorities. We are focused on getting that to happen because it has recreational value. That's why we partnered with DNR to partner with us to move this initiative forward. Chatham, Illinois, they made the mistake of going their own way with the water. Since I've been mayor, I think at least 3 times, they've called us for a backup water source. We are a regional supplier for water for our backup communities. Springfield does not have a backup water source. We have to have a backup water source so we all can survive and thrive. But it's crucial. So we're going to push that initiative forward. Kudos to Congressman Davis. He brought the Undersecretary of the Army Corps of Engineers to Springfield during the fair, and we sat down, Repubs, Dems, and we're sitting there, and he goes, well, Mayor, tell me what you want. And I said, well, we'd like to build this lake. And he said, well, you want me to be perfectly honest? And he has a southern draw. I can't do it. But he said, there's no way in H that we're going to give you money for a lake. I said, money? I said, we don't want money. He goes, you don't want money? I said, no, we want a permit. And he goes, you got to be S-ing me. And I'm going, no. And so President Trump has a parameter, 2 years to get a decision made. And so what's the answer from a bureaucrat in Illinois that's been at it for decades, just like why this project is squandered or been lengthened out, is he said, well, that's you weren't grandfathered in. But that's why we're moving it forward. We're going to appeal it to the Mississippi Valley. We're going to take it to the national level to have them make a decision on Hunter Lake because we have to have a secondary source of water. But real fast, we did the studies. We went through it. We looked at 30 different parameters. We came back to the same 2 alternatives, building a pipeline from Havana, 50 miles, or Lake 2. Well, just to give you parameters on 50-mile pipeline, we just opened up the 11th Street extension. 1/4 of a mile took us 50 years to open that up. So there's no way you're going to build a Havana pipeline, and so that's why we're moving forward in this initiative.
But Mayor, I want to go back to a point you made just a moment ago, and I want you to clarify this.
Sure.
You said electricity's not the future, it's water.
Right.
Does that mean,
In my opinion.
Does that mean you envision a time when CWLP will not be in the electric generation business?
No, you have, I think, $500 million worth of bonds to pay off, but really it's the proper balance. How are we good fiduciary managers of that fund? That's why my banking experience is crucial with regards to that. That's why Corporation Counsel has understood these matters and protects us, drawing up the contracts to protect us, that we don't get in an upside-down contract like the wind contracts. But what's that proper balance? So it's probably natural gas. Dolman 4 was built to the 2030 standards, so we will have that proper balance. The older units, 31, 32, possibly 33 will come off, but 31, 32, it's coming off without a doubt immediately. But the integrated resource plan, unfortunately, got stalled by this particular alderman, but the city council. Otherwise, we'd have the report right now, which is frustrating because you want it before the election. But we're going to work as hardest and come up with the final draft. You want to wait for the final draft and present it. And of course, hopefully it doesn't become a political football, but what you can take to the bank, I have CWLP and I have the city's best interest at heart to do what's fiscally responsible for our future energy needs.
Frank Edwards, anything you want to add on CWLP?
Well, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that CWLP is under tremendous debt load. That's why our costs are so high. If we continue to buy things, we haven't bought all the property yet for Hunter Lake. That's an expense. That's more debt. I think we're just about debted out. We need to concentrate on lowering our costs, lowering our debt load, and move CWLP forward as a stable operation instead of trying to figure out how we can apply more debt and buy more things that we can't afford.
I want to keep moving along here, a few other issues to get to. Moving now to downtown. A lot happening there, a lot on the drawing board, North Mansion, Y Block, and others. Mayor, what's your vision for downtown 4 years from now, if you get another term?
Real quick, though, don't take my word for it. Look at the rating agency. They upgraded CWLP from a negative to a stable rating, so that tells you what the financial future holds for CWLP. But with regards to downtown, downtown is exciting. I mean, I'm looking forward. I thank Senator Menard for introducing the opportunity to put $50 million towards a university presence on the Y Block. That's the real win-win. And really what it comes down to is how do you get people downtown and activate spaces, things of that nature. So we're doing that. You know, it's transforming right now. Like I pointed to, the Illinois Realtors partnered with this with the Bicentennial Plaza. If you have not done so, take the walk from Lincoln's home, and it connects up to the mansion, the third oldest governor's mansion. And it's been redone due to our previous governor and private sector development redid the mansion, $15 million development. And so it's added another gem to Springfield. And really what drives it is our tourism. And we are, I think, an overnight stay because of the mansion and just the other activities happening within downtown Springfield. We received the Levitt Grant, partnering with downtown Springfield. But most importantly, two things. One is art connectivity. And that's why it's important that we're here at the Hoagland Arts Center under, I think I'll give kudos to Mayor Sarah, I think Mayor Houston and Mayor Davlin. They all had something to do with this, get this great gem opened, and it's been a thriving area for the arts. But how do we build on that? Springfield Area Arts Council, Art Association. That's where we've connected with them to do artistry throughout our community at Lincoln Library, murals on Clear Lake, and also at the Visual Arts Center at Enos Park. And that's our connectivity because the plans for downtown is how do you connect to the surrounding neighborhoods.
But Mayor, if I may, and everything you say is self-evident here, but it hasn't yet translated into development, into dollars, into tax-generating projects here. How do you make that move?
Well, you leverage the TIF and go back to the park. You know, nobody liked the park idea, and I didn't like it originally, but it did offer us the opportunity for development on that block. That's how I had it structured. But you have to have that downtown excitement with regards to fountains, and that will happen. We'll have fountains on that area with summertime water, ice skating in the winter, but you have that university presence that will really make it hop. And that's the real key for development. You have to bring the numbers downtown with regards to that. The Rick Lawrence project, we're trying to push that through. He's, trying to work through that project, but it's about bringing those vacated properties online as much as possible. What you have to do and what we have done is partnered with others like the University of Illinois. When the Q5 initiative went by the wayside and the EDC was being formed, we stepped up to the plate and funded Innovate Springfield. And that's when UIS had the comfort level to come down and invest in that area. That's our entrepreneurship. That's what it's all about. How do you develop small businesses? And one of those key components we put into action was the Aware app. That's with Rasha Syed. And what that means, well, you can go online, springfield.il.us, and look at the Aware app, but it's all about connecting individuals to places within our own community downtown. But that's going to be a global company one of these days, just because what that app will do in providing directional pathfinding for individuals that are disabled, or myself. I'm challenged that way with regards to navigation.
I want to bring Frank Edwards into this now because I want to see what your vision, your plan is to light a fire under downtown development.
Well, if you go downtown and you look at the buildings that are downtown, most of them have somebody in the first floor. If you look above the first floor, they're empty. That's a problem. I envision us taking our rules for the historic district, which is the downtown area, and making those rules a little different than they are for building something out west, a change of rules. St. Louis did it in their historic district. They made it easier to remodel, and everybody that's been through a remodel project knows how tough it is. It's easier to build something new than it is to remodel. We need to help downtown by making it easier to develop. So I would see a change of rules downtown. And then with Andy Menard's $50 million, I'd want to talk to him about doing that through private foundation or private development, still with his $50 million investment, because if we use the $50 million and we use that in the Y block, there'll be no tax return from us, for us, other than people being down there. I think people being down there is great. But you're not going to generate the tax dollars because it's going to be owned by a university. So I'd like to see this with a private partnership, university development, so that we can recapture some of the taxes for downtown to help offset the TIF.
Another looming issue out there for the city, police and fire pensions. There's been discussion about consolidating our pension funds here locally with other municipal pension funds around the state. Is that the right approach? Do we need a different approach to deal with this problem, Frank Edwards?
Well, I would, you know, that's kind of the big elephant in the room, the gorilla in the room, whatever you want to call it, because it is eating up your tax dollars. I had a discussion, and I'm going to kind of throw Mike Houston out here to the wolves, because he and I had a discussion about that very fact, and I thought Mike came up with some really unique and great ideas on that very thing. And I asked him, I said, if I end up in the mayor's slot, would you chair a committee if I could get the unions together, much like we did with the healthcare committee? Because if you remember back years ago, our health care was run amok. That's all we talked about. We put a union labor management team together, and we stabilized health care. And I asked Mike, I said, would you lead that? And he said, absolutely. He would help our city do that. He's some great ideas. Would I want to combine our pension funds with a city like Harvey, that they're in defunct? Absolutely not. I would rather us work to solve our problems and come up with solutions with talented leaders and talented people from our own community, as opposed to bringing their problems to our community and our problems to their community. I think it's very solvable, but we have to work together, and we're tired of kicking the can down the road.
Mayor Langfelder, your thoughts on consolidation?
Yeah, real quick, the adaptive reuse that Alderman Edwards was looking at, we tried to work with Rick Lawrence on that adaptive reuse like they're doing in St. Louis. So we are doing that with regards to how you transform buildings into the current standards. But with regards to our pensions, I'm a firm believer. I'm a partner, or IML, Illinois Municipal League, are our lobbyists at the state legislature. They have to make change with regards to how it's structured. I'm a firm believer in having it similar structure to the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, where it would give us greater flexibility with investments. So in the upswings of markets, you can take advantage of those investments, and then in downturns, you can protect the portfolio with regards to that. And IMRF is one of, if not the best, one of the best funded pensions in the state. So we should move in that direction, and you'd still have the local control with regards to the pension boards and the pensioners. But the other aspect is what we've been doing since 2015 is putting plans into action. Everybody says Springfield's been studied too much, and that's what we've done. When we come in, we put plans into action. And one of them was Mayor Davlin had a blue ribbon panel, and he brought in individuals throughout our city, experts, and because he recognized, he had the vision to recognize the structural financial deficit we were facing, not only with CWLP, not only with the pension, but the corporate fund. And so two things we did, and was recommended by the Blue Ribbon Panel. One was the telecom tax. He said raise it up to the level that it is right now. We just did that, I think, last year. And that's so we could fund the library services, because growing and thriving communities, you have to have those educational resources for our young people. So we've expanded that. We raised the telecom tax. The other item we did, we corrected the structure, the financial ability of CWLP. So our pilot, we're receiving more dollars, and we just passed, thanks to the City Council passing my initiative, that the pilot would actually be used to add an additional pension payment, as the structure was recommended in the Blue Ribbon Panel's Commission's findings, to pay those pension obligations. And we're moving in that right direction. And as we continue to grow our utility and grow that bottom line, that will help pay off the unfunded liability of our pension funds.
Real briefly, Governor Pritzker this week in his...
Can I just say something real quick? Because Jim brought this up. When in fiscal year 15, the pilot was, and pilot means payment in lieu of taxes. if CWLP was a private industry, they'd be paying taxes to our community. So somebody long ago said they ought to contribute, they ought to help. They use police services, they use fire services, they use all kinds of services. So CWLP does pay into the corporate fund. In fiscal year 15, I think it was 7.9 million. Today, as the revenue's going down, that pilot's been raised to 9.1 million, a difference of a little over $1 million. Then a new line surfaced, not this year, last year, and it was called shared services. And that's just a way to take more money away from CWLP and put it in the corporate fund. And that totals to about $1.3 million. Now, I thought that's what pilot was for. So if you look at the raise of what the pilot was raised this year and the new line item called shared services, we're taking a little over $2.1 million this year away from CWLP. Now, you can't continue to do that and expect CWLP to be okay. I mean, it's plain and simple. We got to quit reaching in there, taking funds away from CWLP to pay for other things.
Mayor, quick response.
Yep. They've improved from 5 days of cash when we walked in. Now it's 60 days of cash. We also built an environmental fund that has, I think, over $10 million, so we can take care of the coal ash obligation for any potential environmental needs with regards to that. CWLP's in a better position. Shared services came under Mike Houston, the consolidated garages, where you have each individual having their own department, their own employees, acting as silos. He saw the foresight to consolidate the garage. We're doing the same thing with shared services. We're reducing the cost of government through shared services, and it's improving the bottom line, not only the utility, but the corporate fund as well.
We're nearing the end of our time, so I want to ask about Capital Township and the proposal that's on there right now to consolidate its services, center them either with the city or with the county, and dissolve the township. Mayor, I know you've talked extensively about this. So again, just real briefly, if you could, sum up where you stand, where we are in these conversations, and where you envision this ending up.
Well, Capital Township, they provide great services for the people that need it most, but it's time for that to be absolved and really looked at efficiently, because government, we need to put more taxpayer dollars back into their pockets, but we need to provide the services with regards to Capital Township. Over $600,000 currently goes to salaries. A lot of it's at the county. So my preference is come before the city, but the county, I understand, wants it, so we can work with them, but it has to have the proper oversight, the accountability, the transparency, so we make sure that the people that are supposed to receive those services continue those services, but we don't lose sight of the goal of consolidation, having property tax relief for our ratepayers or property taxpayers. So that's the intent. I'll move forward with that. And if we don't come to an agreement, then we will put it on the next ballot with regards to the next election that comes up.
Frank Edwards, how should this issue be dealt with?
Well, I thought that we all got along. I thought that that's what I've always heard. You be warm and fuzzy and you can get along with people. And this has caused a little dust up. What happens is people get lost. The people that are being served get lost in the melee. The employees get lost in the melee. And the taxpayers get lost in the melee. And you have two entities of government arguing over what something should be. It should be what's best for those three entities: the taxpayer, the employees, because they understand the services are given. They understand what needs to be done, and the people receiving those services. That's what we should be concentrating on. So the two entities need to sit down and work together to resolve the issue.
Do you have a sense right now as to whether it'd be better located, centered with the city or with the county, or keep it as it is?
I think that right now, let's keep it as it is. But I do believe if you can work it out, there's a certain part that the city plays in this and a certain part that the county plays. So I see a compromise in the works, that if we can work this out, I think it's better that we compromise in both positions and then the taxpayers get a reduction in their taxes.
And Mayor, you're comfortable if this were to eventually be centered with Sangamon County, you could live with that outcome?
As long as the city has proper oversight. And the reason being is, how many of you know who your county board member is? How many of you know who your alderman is? Well, I think everybody knows who their alderman is. And that was proven at our last city council meeting when someone from the public came up and shared their story. We have 40 ward plan meetings, and so we are the most open government. We're at the heartbeat of the people, and people are comfortable with coming to us with their issues. But it's all about service, especially those that need it most. And I go back to my original statement. We're like a family. The city's like a family. How do we provide the services so each and every one of us grow together?
I know we said no time limits, but the clock is unstoppable and we are up against it. So I'd like each of you to take just about a minute or so to offer your final thoughts here this morning before we wrap things up. So Mayor, would you begin?
Sure. Good thing I timed it. Thank you, Citizens Club, Jim Leach, and all of you for coming today. This election is about Springfield's future. Do we go back to the same old Springfield or continue the progress we have made together to a better tomorrow for all of us? As mayor, along with the city council, we have built the level of trust with the public through our 40 ward plan meetings so we all have a better understanding of our community priorities by ward and as a city as a whole. Together, we work together to do what is best for Springfield. Springfield is the home of our greatest president, Abraham Lincoln, and we should challenge ourselves and our community each and every day to aspire to his vision. Under a Langfelder administration, Springfield will continue to strive to be the model city, especially with regards to race relations, economic development, CWLP, and most importantly, trust in your city government. We will not be satisfied until our entire community is thriving together and all neighborhoods are safe and desirable for everyone to live. I'm Jim Langfelder, and I would appreciate your vote on April 2nd and this nonpartisan election so we all can thrive together. Thank you.
Frank Edwards, your final thoughts this morning.
Okay, well, our city's facing some challenges. We can blame others, pretend they don't exist, or we can face these challenges with skilled leadership and determination to overcome them. I'm no stranger to the mayor's office. I face some pretty tough circumstances. With a steady team, with a steady hand and teamwork, we can set a course that will lower our expenses and operating costs, build up our fund balance, and hand the government off to Mayor Mike. We're going back. We'll hand the government off to the next mayor better than what we found it. My vision today, tackle and solve our problems so businesses are attracted to this great city. Have our city be vibrant, be the hub of new ideas, all the while preserving our history. So someday they might say, it's a great place to raise a family, it's a great place to do business, and they have good government. So I'm asking for your vote so we can move our city forward and work together as a team. Thank you.
I'd like to thank both candidates for their availability and accessibility. They have been open and accessible. They'll meet again Monday evening, a forum put on by the Faith Coalition for the Common Good. That'll be at the Lincoln Library main branch at 7th and Capitol beginning at 6 p.m. It'll also be broadcast live on WMAY. And again on March 11th at the offices of the State Journal-Register, another mayoral forum jointly sponsored by WMAY and the SJR, and again broadcast on WMAY and streaming at sj-r.com. Thank all of you for being here, and please a big hand for our candidates this morning.